guys, welcome to another episode of Funky Marketing Show or the podcast, however do you like to call it. Today we have a special episode. We have a special guest, Samuel O'Brien from Dealfront is joining me to talk about all the things related to marketing, sales, and what they do over there in Dealfront and Leadfeeder. But before we get anything, I'm the big mountains guy. I grew up in the mountains. I even have them tattooed on my hand. And Sam is somebody who likes the ocean and surfing. So, tell me the difference in why you like ocean and surfing so much. And welcome to the show.
Thank you. Yeah, no, very, very happy to be here. Looking forward to our chat. And this wasn't planned, but like literally all my pictures of the ocean. So
Nice.
it's clearly an obsession. I mean, you could say the same for mountains, but the ocean changes. It really changes in the seasons. I know the mountains do, but even like within a day, I can go down to the beach in the morning, it's high tide, and it feels one way. And then I can go back down there in a few hours' time, and it's a completely different scene, especially in England because we get massive tides. So I think it's forever changing. And for me, being a surfer, like it's the hardest skill in the world because you can't replicate this thing twice. Every time you're catching a wave, it's going to be a little bit different. It's going to feel different. It's going to shape up different. So yeah, there's an obsession with the ocean, that's for sure.
Yeah, and I guess there's a freedom related to that, right? I was a skateboarder back when I was younger, sometimes even now. So I guess I know the feeling. But when you
Yeah.
are on the ocean surfing, I guess there's a sense of freedom.
And the realization that you're quite small. you know,
Yeah,
there's
yeah.
there's this big ocean out there, and again, where I live in the UK, it's the Atlantic Ocean. So it's nothing until you get to America. So yeah, you're this small dot, and these waves come out from deep oceans and travel all the way into shore. So yeah, it's quite a. I sound like a hippie, but it's quite a special experience.
Yeah, nice. We need to do an episode on like ocean and mountains and those kind of things.
And just
I
boards,
guess
yeah,
there will be
yeah,
a lot of similarities, right?
yeah. I like it.
Okay, so starting from surfing, tell me a little bit about your journey. From the early days up to the current role and at Dealfront.
Yeah, I got into design originally, really early on. So
Nice.
I was actually working in a design studio more as like a coffee boy than a designer when I was like 16. So I always say this. I've been in and around marketing for a long time. And working with this agency, I learned a lot. We were doing a lot of email marketing back there, like for e-commerce stores. So started like designing the emails and focusing on conversion rates and click-through rates and all this kind of stuff. And that led me down the path into more like performance marketing, optimization, and going through that lens. Um, Along the way, I've worked on a couple of products and built a few things. Some of them have been absolute disasters. Some of them have been reasonably successful, like they've done okay. And then, yeah, I found the world of SaaS with Ring Central, joined Ring Central. We were like a 30-person team in Europe. When I left, it was 500 people. So
Nice.
it was a proper rocket ship. And for me, that was the change because getting into SaaS and just learning this retention model and the fact that you can bring a customer in and continue to earn money from them was such a new experience that it really changed how I was approaching marketing. And yeah, I had some great leaders there and mentors. So that set me up. And then since then, I've taken on all heads of marketing roles. So obviously most recent now being at Dealfront, where I've been here for nearly a year now, although it feels like feels almost like I've been here for 5 years. And at the same time, it's gone so quick. It feels like I started a week ago.
Yeah, I mean, look, when you're tied to performance and those kind of things, especially in SaaS, I know the feeling. I got somehow slowed down when I moved to work as a consultant
Yeah.
compared to working in house. And and sometimes I'm happy that I don't have like the rush, but sometimes I really miss it because I love the work. I actually love executing the strategies, right? Not
Mhm.
only creating them. And but tell me one thing. Usually, all of us who ended up in marketing, we all at one moment wanted to reach out the CMO or VP level, right? So I just wanted to get your insights. How did you look at that? And now when you are working in that position, how do you look at it compared to, was that the dream job or no? Or how do you look at it?
Yeah, it's I think we all see the natural progression and think that that's where we should be going. I mean, don't get me wrong. There are times where I think, go a layer down and take a lot less stress, and I think it does reduce that like one layer down. But for me, I was in the position I was in. I was running the EMEA marketing for Ring Central, and I kind of had the safety net because it was a big organization, and I had the
Mm-hmm.
support of like the US team and CMOs and whatever there. So I had a couple of good mentors, and it just felt like the right time where I could go into a company, a smaller company, and really like implement some of this stuff that I've been learning to great effect. So I've honestly just it naturally happened. People started reaching out to me, offering me positions, and once Advice came along, it was a really nice offer. Like the company was doing really well, and just felt like the right change to make. Joining, is it the dream job? I think it is because I think you get to still do a little bit of everything. But I say this on every podcast I'm on. I spend way more time in Google spreadsheets than I ever thought I would. It's my most used tool for budgeting, forecasting, everything. We're using Google Sheets, and I think there's a lot less time on the creative side of things, which can be disheartening. But again, it's part of the evolution.
Yeah, especially when you have a design background, right?
Yeah, yeah, yeah. I'll spend a little bit of time on a presentation to make sure it's super nice.
Nice. I mean, I feel the same, even though I'm working usually as an external consultant, but I love spending time in spreadsheets, and that's usually what I like to emphasize to the people. Like, great marketers are not just creative types. Usually, people say like creative is one way to execute the results and get there, but you need the data to make the creative something that brings results, right? And it usually happens in the spreadsheet during the boring work, digging deeper, and analyzing things and going through that. So there's a line in your headline, and I like that. Balancing instant results with long-term value in marketing strategies. So let's talk a little bit about that, because usually working, especially in your position, I guess on one side you have the short-term goals and short-term wins that you need to get, but on the other hand, you know that you need to build a brand long-term. You need to build awareness and something that will, kind of build the foundation for the future growth, not only for now. So let's talk about balancing these two.
Yeah, I would say it's one of the most challenging things in marketing because, uh, as you say, you've always got targets, and often you'll have a sales team or a CRO. They're targeted monthly or quarterly, so marketing instantly aligned to those targets. But what you need to do is create the vision of, look, if we invest in the brand, if we start to build up our presence, longer term things become easier for us. They become more efficient. We're reaching the right people quicker. And the way I've presented it is always like we'll focus on the short term initially. We'll get this super efficient. And when we know that the bottom of the funnel is working well, like we're bringing in the right profile person, that then allows us to almost borrow money, from the short term and start funding the long term. And for me, I look at marketing overall. As long as marketing, like all marketing spend, is efficient, I'm not too worried if I'm like overspending here and underspending on long term, as long as I look efficient. So once I get the efficiency sorted, then it allows me to just keep like starting these tests long term again, like bringing in partners, doing events, longer term podcast plays, things like that. We allocate a little bit of money to run these tests. We'll run them for like 6 months, see if it impacted our bottom line at all, or if we increased our awareness and bits like that. And as long as we start seeing the leading indicators that it's moving in the right way, then we'll start funding it more and more and more. I think the mistake people make is they either focus entirely on the short term and forget about the long term, or they over-index on the long term and they kind of go, oh, let's go and put a load of sponsored adverts around London, and it costs you a couple of million and drives nothing. So it's definitely a balancing act.
Yeah, I love how you describe that, because I feel like we all try to, the natural thing is try to not to get crucified because
Yeah,
that's what usually this means. And, balancing those two. But one thing that you mentioned, and this is how I usually like to look at marketing, it's like an R&D function inside the company, right? You set up the foundation and then you add hypotheses and you test them one by one to see what sticks, what works, what brings the results. Then you optimize, and then you can increase the budget and get all in on those things. And
yeah,
when I explain it like this, it seems like it's natural, but usually it's not.
yeah. I agree. I've said this many times. There's so much value in marketers spending time with product managers just to learn how they approach a problem, and what are they doing, how are they prioritizing what to build next, and what features to add. And I think there's so much in the product marketing role, sorry, in the product management role, which marketers can learn from, which actually, like, definitely those skills are things that I've brought in. And I think you just start evaluating your entire business differently.
Exactly. And on the other hand, you have the customers, right? So between those two is actually where you should
Yeah.
thrive.
Yeah, completely agree.
Perfect. Okay, so tell me a little bit about what you guys are doing at Dealfront. So it's like B2B prospecting, sales intelligence, all that space.
Yeah, so Dealfront came out of two companies, so two companies merged, and we had EchoBot in Germany. They were very much on the sales intelligence space, the helping companies with prospecting and outbound by giving them the right data. And then we had Leadfeeder, which was IP tracking, who's visiting your website, anonymizing those visitors, and then supplying that information again into sales. So the two companies, interestingly, were both looking at funding, and our partners, Great Hill Partners, said, "Hey, this makes a really good proposition if we put you two together." That happened about 2 years ago now. So I think the reason we brought them in together is it creates this flywheel. We
Mhm.
can now identify who comes onto the website. We can pass that data into sales. We can enrich it. We can add different people within the organization that you may need to go and speak to. And there's so much information that we can now provide that if you're in marketing and you're running ABM, or if you're in sales and you're running outbound, like, we can pretty much do the end-to-end solution for you, which, yeah, it's turned into a really nice proposition.
Yeah, so it sounds good. So is that connection between the two what actually makes you stand out, or you focus on something else?
Yeah, I think we've obviously got competitors which do it, and they do it with like other vendors. They may integrate with a vendor that does one part, and there's a couple of the bigger competitors that definitely have the full suite. I would say for us, one area that makes us stand out is how we collect our data. It's all company level. It's from the trade registers, so like very accurate, very GDPR compliant data. And then there's so data sourcing is one element, and then I think the way that, as I say, we're able to create that flywheel. We've got a tool called Promote, which allows you to do IP advertising. So again, creating that full funnel. And I would say for us, the focus is going to be to become an expert in something and not be, a jack of all trades. So what we've noticed is some of our bigger competitors have been adding on sort of little features here and there, which make them good across the board, but not great at anything. We want to be great at like one thing, and really make sure we're the market leader.
Yeah, I love that. I love it. And you mentioned one thing that it's usually something that especially young companies don't figure out. It's you need to create that flywheel that will
Yeah,
keep you in the loop and get your result. And it's the circle that should never end. Basically, right? You should always offer more to the customers. You should always get them, and you got this. So my question goes into, you talk to you sell to marketers. On the other hand, you sell to sales, right? And if I look now at LinkedIn, it seems okay. Marketing and salespeople are there, but I know that it's much more harder to get them than what I just said.
Yeah, I think, marketers can tell when they're being marketed to. Like, so it's always more challenging. And I think salespeople, it normally comes from a need. And often we find like you may have sales may come bottoms up where it's somebody on the ground, it's an SDR, they're looking for one bit of information, they stumble across our website and it gets passed through the ranks, hey, let's go and check out these guys, they've got data. Whereas the marketers, it's normally they want to launch something, they want to start doing more targeted marketing. Maybe they're branching out of like the traditional mass market they've been doing. They want to start ABM or they want to start something like that, or just start supporting the outbound sales team. They'll come in with that need. And then on the two businesses, because originally how they were set up, we still have a complete SLG motion on
Mm-hmm.
one side, and we have a complete PLG motion on the other side. So, like, it is interesting seeing how people come through our funnels, and it's definitely not a case. It's not as black and white as to say, if you're a VP, you're going to reach out to sales. We have CEOs and VPs completely self-serving, and then we have junior people who want to talk to sales straight away. So, yeah, it's interesting.
Yeah, and it's refreshing to hear. Usually, people choose just one approach and go for it, but you actually got all the scenarios, sorted out, and you can now track them how things are, uncovering basically.
Yeah, yeah,
Perfect. Okay, so let's get a little bit into, there's marketing, salespeople, decision makers listening to this. So maybe we can get into, how they can actually use the data that Dealfront is providing, Leadfeeder as well, and uncover new opportunities. Maybe if you have a scenario that you can use, maybe from an example or something like that, that we can guide them through how it goes.
yeah, yeah. For me, it starts with being targeted. So start with knowing your ICP and who you want to go after. And I think what's happened is a lot of marketers they don't know who they're targeting. It's like we're putting up adverts, we're bringing people in, sales are closing them, and that's fine. But like defining your ICP, and if you know exactly who you're starting with and who you're going to sell to, that then helps you create these data sets. So what we do is we know who we're going to sell to, we know the profiles we want. We start in target our product, and we pull together all the companies in that that match that description. Then let's say we've got a really big pool there, like 100,000 companies or something. Then we'll start looking through them, and we're finding the ones which are showing a certain level of intent. Maybe it's job changes, maybe the company's growing. They've had good financial growth, which is a good sign that they're probably going to start hiring people. And we look for any signal like that. So we start filtering down to go, okay, we went from 100,000, now we're at like 50,000. And we actually start with like a really big list. Then what we'll do is we'll create those lists on Leadfeeder, and we'll say, okay, if anybody from this 50,000 company visits the website, like put them in this bucket. We want to know they've come on. And we'll filter it further and further down. So we start saying, okay, now if they've visited the pricing page, put them in a different bucket. And if more than one person from the company has visited the website, put them in another bucket. And when they get down to a certain level, we say, okay, that's now a pretty hot lead. Let's pass them over to the outbound team. Let's start doing the SDR route, engaging with them. And at the same time, let's start running our IP adverts, making sure that we're warming them up, reaching more people within the company. So again, just through doing that, we're even though we start with a really big list still, we're focusing on the ones that are actually showing intent and are actually likely to buy, instead of spending all of our money trying to reach such a broad market. I think we all share this stat regularly, but it's like 95% of your market aren't buying. So they're the ones you want to get in front of to grow your brand, but you need to find that 5% that are buying now. and make sure that you're in front of them, and you're definitely in the discussion when they are going to buy.
Yeah, I totally agree. And I mean, it's changing these days a lot. I think a lot of people don't understand that, just focusing on Google,
Yeah.
it's okay when you are like in the top three, or when the company is choosing, or let's say top five, however it is. But then they go to Google. From Google, they go to LinkedIn to check out the references to see if they're actually real people talking about things. Do they have the knowledge that they should have? And then they move on. So it's basically just a first starting point when they do that. But even before that, to get to the list, you need to do a lot of different stuff and do a lot of touches with your with potential customers to be actually on top of mind and get to the list.
Yeah. Yeah, and I think that's the interesting thing again with Leadfeeder. We have a Google Ads integration, for instance, and I mean actually the Google Ads integration is irrelevant here, but we're able to see, let's say IKEA come to my website, big company, lots of decision makers. I'll see that IKEA came, and then I'll see the number of people that came from IKEA. So I can actually track back to go, okay, the first interaction came via LinkedIn. Then person two or person three came through Google Ads. And then like someone else came through another channel. And then maybe the person who actually submitted the lead and closed the deal normally came through Google brand, and they're going to get all the credit, right? So if when we have like big deals that come in, we'll actually take the time to go back and analyze and be like, okay, yes, this channel got attributed the revenue, but what other channels influenced it? Who else was involved, and how can we learn from that in the future? And I can tell you, it's very rarely like one person came on through one channel and brought. It's normally multiple people coming on through multiple channels.
Yeah, exactly. I mean, I just saw the post before we started recording this. I think Casey Jenkins was saying, like, it's kind of crazy that we look at through the last touch attribution everything
Hmm.
in business, but in real life we don't do it. And there
Yeah.
was an example: how do you fall in love? It was that last isolated phone conversation about what do you eat for dinner, right?
Exactly that. Yeah.
It doesn't happen like this. I usually like to use those kind of examples because that makes people actually understand how it is.
Yeah.
So tell me, if I look at it now, like people from marketing are listening to this, people from sales, um, and let's kind of make it clear how, like, what role does Dealfront plays in aligning all of their efforts to create revenue.
Yeah. I would say again, if you're coming on this, if you're listening and you're a marketer, you want to use us to first of all just identify who's on your website and know who's there, um, and know who's showing intent but not submitting forms. Because this is the thing, like a really, really well optimized website might convert, let's say 7%, let's be generous. There's a lot of people that aren't submitting lead forms, but actually, if you get in front of them with an SDR team, you can just push them along, engage with them a little bit and keep them warm. So I think like ground zero is just get IP tracking on your website and understand who's coming and are you attracting the right people. That's one thing here is your marketing might not actually be attracting the right people. You may need to shift tactics. So that's like a super basic level just to get you going. I think the next level is then adding in the data and enriching what you've got. So again, if you identify somebody's coming to the website, who else is in the organization? Who could be a decision maker? Who else could be buying from you within that organization? And that's where you can start fueling that to sales and giving them more information. So, like being more of a consultative partnership between marketing and sales of saying, like, hey, SDR team, this person's on. We've seen this record, this record, this record. Like, go and check them out. Then it switches over to the SDR team, where then they'll be in the platform, and we have a product called Connect, which will give them all the insights, like news events, trigger events, anything that's like happened in the company because of the way we scrape like the public web, the information is there. So they're then able to go in, and from an SDR perspective, what you want to be doing is not doing generic mass outreach. You want to put in a little bit of information there, have done a little bit of research, know something about the person. And I think at that point, if you start doing that, your connection rates go up, your meeting bookings go up, and it really helps with the conversion rates.
Yeah, let's keep it going in that direction. You mentioned events, you mentioned those kind of things, and basically, I got a feeling like everything we do today, from the company standpoint, goes into the account-based marketing direction, right? I even look at demand generation as account-based marketing in one way, right? If we don't look at a larger scope of the customers. Um, so let's see how then we can use those types of campaigns like account-based marketing with Dealfront and Leadfeeder.
Yeah, I completely agree with you. By the way, I think the account based marketing police will moan at us because they'll say, account based marketing is 1-to-1 or one to a few, but ultimately we're picking a set of accounts which we want to market to. And yeah, as in my example earlier, it's let's say 50,000 accounts. But I'm not going to go and do one-on-one marketing to all of them. I just want to keep warming them up and getting them further down the funnel. So I
Exactly. I mean,
think,
you want to open the door. I usually say like this, without marketing, without actually even the sales part of it,
yeah,
it's like, because when I was younger, I was working for the, how do you call it, the electricity company. It's a public company here, and I was going and reading how much electricity they spend in the last month, right? But to
hmm
be able to do that, I need to, and it was happening early in the morning. I need to find a way to go around the gate, avoid the dog, make them open the door, and usually it's in the room in the second floor, right? Because there were houses built on all kind of different ways. And when you use account-based marketing, usually the guy know when you are coming. They will unlock the gate, tie the dog, open the door, and even
yeah,
give you sweets or coffee when you
yeah.
come in.
Yeah, exactly that. And I think that's the thing is you're like, if you're coming at this purely from a sales lens, if you're a salesperson and you're saying, I'm not getting the right profiles from marketing, we're getting leads come in, they're measuring leads, they're not measuring revenue or whatever it is, then that's the other angle is you come in via target and you start creating the lists yourself and looking at who is showing that intent and who could you sell to, then having that conversation with marketing to be like, look, these are the profiles we should be going after. Let's figure out a way of getting in front of these people. And again, I think from that perspective, the way that we really add value is being able to see, if you've got a large company that has multiple offices, maybe you're talking to the decision maker in Germany, for instance, but actually there might be somebody else in the UK or the US that you need to involve. So by understanding that, by seeing the org and who's in the company, you can then start softly engaging with them, doing a little bit of LinkedIn social selling, and just increasing your chance of closing that deal by being in front of more people, not putting all your bets on the one person.
Yeah. That's actually good, right? Because usually the sales, what they're saying, marketing doesn't bring, the right customers to us, and
Yeah,
usually then says that marketing is doing shit again, right? But with this, you can focus all together on the right type of customers, and each function is doing their own job, and it results in actually setting up the company for the future growth.
yeah. I think that's the thing. Like, it's unfortunately, I think times of old where sales would just come up with a dream list. I want this business, this business, this business. There was no strategy behind it. There was no like thought process. It was just, oh, we believe we could sell to these people. Let's go and get them.
Yeah, that's
And
crucial. I think
then,
we believe.
yeah. Or I want to sell to them because I want to get tickets to their event. It's like I remember trying to sell to Chelsea Football Club for that reason. Um, but it's like I think we've come to this position now where actually the information's there, And if sales and marketing can agree on the targets to start with, then the rest of the process is actually a lot easier because we've agreed like this is the profile of person we're looking for. We've identified this list of people which are showing a level of interest. Let's focus on them. And it may not be the customers that, the most attractive logo we want on the website, but ultimately we all want to close the right business and work with the people that are going to stay with us and we're going to retain. So I think that's a really important place to start.
Yeah, so let's talk a little bit about the challenges regarding the demographics and all the other stuff. We all know that, in Europe, we are kind of falling behind the US basically because of the regulation
Mhm.
based on those kind of things. I know you guys, are big, I think, in the DACH region, in Europe, and let's talk about using all the tools in Europe, and then maybe adding, I don't know, like APEC or LATAM or those kind of regions. How do you expand? And just for the from the standpoint of regulations and using the tools and all those challenges.
Yeah, I being founded in DAC, we've focused on GDPR. It's one of the most compliant countries, if not the most. So we have focused on collecting data in the right way. It is challenging, I think, for marketers like having gone to market from a company outside of that and trying to go to market in that region is really hard. One, like they do business differently. I would say they're still very much on a personal level and really wanting to get to know you. But two, like the regulations do make it more challenging. I would say what we're seeing is the US, although they are a lot looser, they are actually becoming more compliant focused. And I think privacy, one, it's being driven by the government. Two, it's obviously being driven by Apple and Google and the likes of them. But three, I think on like the personal level, there are people. Let's take Brave, the web browser. There's so many people using Brave now because they don't want to be tracked and they don't want that information being shared. So I think we feel like the US will catch up and will move into a more compliant state. And I think when that happens, the key thing for people is going to be understanding how the data is sourced and understanding if it is like sourced um, in a way that you have the consent and you can understand where the data actually came from. So with us, we can show where the data came from. We can show the record of where it came from. And if somebody is unhappy, they also have the ability to opt out of our system. Um, I think that's really important. And what I would say is a lot of people, they may run mass outbound with buying a list from a company. Data is really dynamic. It's changing constantly. So I think whether you're working with us, you're working with somebody else, you've got to make sure you're using the data and refreshing it on a regular basis. If you don't refresh it, things get outdated, and that's when you'll get into trouble because you're starting to spam people who potentially left the company 6 months ago, 12 months ago. And unfortunately, you only need a few. I mean, we had the Google update like 2 days ago, right, about the spam filter for pixel trackings. You only need a few people to raise you as spam. I can't remember the exact number, but you start damaging your domain and you get blocked, and that causes you so many issues going forward. So for me, that's like the most important thing. Just making sure you understand how your data is sourced and making sure you're using the most up-to-date record when you are running campaigns.
Sounds good. Sounds good. I like that. And I mean, it basically leads to the, where you actually founded. So you founded with that mindset and knowledge and, thinking about all these things. But tell me, you know, we talked about past, we talked about the present. Let's talk about the future. So, from your perspective, where's the sales intelligence, industry going, and how do you see the role of Dealfront in all of this? Maybe also, what's interesting. Everybody likes to talk about AI. So, do you see maybe AI can, enhance some of the things that you are already doing.
100%. I think, look, unfortunately, the space, I believe, is going to get split in half. On one camp, you're going to have people that want to use AI, like SDR, AI SDRs, AI email, they just want to stick with that mass approach of sending like 20,000 emails per week to random profiles. So on one hand, I think you've got tools which are really enabling people to do that, and that's one path you can go. I think on the other hand, you've got like the path we're going down, which we're going to enable you to be more targeted, um, and have better conversations. So, we believe that the way we can use AI is to like help with email summaries or help with bringing together a profile of somebody and what their interests are, what's changed in the company, and all that stuff. But the outreach part would still be human, and it would still be
Mhm.
human to human. And like somebody said this to me the other day that, using AI as a marketer, you should be a good human first. Like the most important thing is remain being a good human. So that's how I see it going. I think, unfortunately, there will be this mass spamming enabled through AI. It's already happening. But over time, I think people will realize that the impact of that's actually quite detrimental. You're reaching out to 20,000 people a week, pissing half of them off, not adding any value. And I think these companies are seeing results because they're reaching so many people. Like
Exactly. Yeah, they have the money to spend,
yeah,
to,
their
to
conversion
throw to
rates are
throw
like,
away, to say it like it is.
it's almost like if you had unlimited Google Ads budget. It's kind of the same mentality. Yeah, I think the conversion rates we've been seeing are like 0.01% or something of meeting accept rates. Whereas when we do super targeted marketing, we're getting like 15%. So, when you balance the scales, it's like, okay, one, we're not pissing off the market. Two, we're still actually booking meetings at a really high rate because we've taken the time to reach out with the proper messaging. And
Yeah,
that's where for sure AI is going to help because it will streamline that. So it will just make humans more efficient.
I totally agree, and that should be the purpose. I mean, just yesterday or 2 days ago, I have like a small, I don't know if it's a small, 600 people WhatsApp community here in Serbia. And I was sharing with them, because I usually connect with people on LinkedIn and I wait for like 2 weeks or a month for them to consume the content. And then I just send a welcome message when I don't try to sell them anything. I just say them, if I can help you, everything is more my profile. It took me like 2.5 years to come up with that second sentence, but it changed a lot. But the point is, I need to have templates, right? You cannot send, I have like 15,000 connections. I
Yeah,
cannot do it all manually. So what I usually do, I say, PS, this is a template. It's not AI. I'm not something like this, saying that I'm not stupid to waste so much time when I have all these tools at use,
yeah,
but know that I'm behind it, and the person who will respond to it, it's me, right? And then people react, finally somebody is having a human touch, saying it like it is, those kind of things. But then it's, I guess the space is so saturated on email is even worse, that
mhm.
some people don't even read that I'm not trying to sell them anything, right? They just skip, or they say no thank you, and I'm like, I'm trying to get to know you, because I ask what's new, what's old, those kind of things. And imagine now with AI, with those kind of things, it will only go to the next level.
Yeah, yeah, 100%, 100%. And it's a shame because I think like it will make it harder for the people who are doing a good job, who are trying to build a connection, who are playing the long term sales play of building up their own community and educating people. And I think it's going to get harder for them because the initial doors are going to get closed a lot faster because people are just so fed up with spam.
Yeah, totally, totally. So tell me, I didn't ask you. Maybe we can kind of finish with that. Tell me, who are some of the companies that are actually using Dealfront? Because we mentioned a lot of stuff. How do you use it? How do you achieve results with that? How do you guys are developing and going through it? But who is actually using the tool?
Yeah,
The
we've got.
tools actually, it's more than one.
Yeah, exactly. We've got a really mixed palette of customers and customer profiles. So again, being the original German company, we have a massive German scene, very much in like manufacturing or people who are selling like much more traditional verticals, and they're selling like really large items. They need to find a couple of people, but they are taking that time to do really, really detailed research on a company and understand who they want to reach out to. We have like engineering divisions like that and manufacturing. Then we do get like recruiters coming and working with us because obviously job changes is
Yeah, 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 yeah.
quite a good signal for them and something that they use in their outreach. And then we have, all the way up to like your other SaaS companies who are a little bit more sophisticated in how they're using the solution and are probably trying to automate a little bit more. Um, and then on the pure lead feeder side, we actually have a pretty big agency network of, web agencies or ABM agencies that are using us for their clients. And that's something we've seen a lot of. And I think it's an area that we're expanding on as well. Because obviously, if we can get in front of the agencies, they understand how to use our technology. It's easier for us to manage them and maintain them. And then obviously they're adding value to their customers and setting this up. So yeah, we've got a real nice spread. Um, for us, like globally, we have a very good base, as I say, in DAC and in the Nordics because of where the companies were founded, and then obviously the US being such a big market and a more mature market, we have a good footprint there as well. I'd like to see a little bit more in the UK just because it's home turf for me, but
Yeah.
that's that's one on the roadmap for next year.
Sounds good. Sounds good. I love that. That's actually a good mixture of different kind of industries and companies. So, talking about the roadmap, how do you see the development for the deal front, and what's next for you?
Yeah, I think, as I say, we're gonna really focus on this targeted marketing and helping companies understand their ICP, prioritizing their ICP, and just major in that as a topic. Really doubling down on like how can somebody find the right person? How should they be using the data? Um, for us in marketing, we are creating a load of playbooks because we realize that that we've got a lot of knowledge in our heads and we're probably using the product, or at least I hope we're using the product to at least 90% of its capacity. We use it a lot, obviously. So we want to start sharing more of what we're doing and just educating people on that. And then I would say for me personally, just enjoying the ride. I think this stuff's it's a journey. It's fun. Like I love it. That's why I came to Dealfront. It's a space which I was passionate about. I think marketing can be done better. I think ABM, as we said earlier, doesn't have to be this big daunting task where you've got to, do one-on-one marketing. I think there's a much more programmatic approach to it. So for me, like I'm just super excited to be educating people on that, and in the byproduct of educating people on that, growing Dealfront and getting to a nice big company.
Love that. That actually sounds interesting. And I love that perspective. Usually, people don't look at it like that. It seems like the surfing actually suits you.
That's the problem. I'm just here for a journey.
Yeah, I think we're all here for a journey, and as soon as we accept that, we're going to thrive in what we do.
Yeah.
Okay, guys, now everybody listening is the moment when I tell you to go back to the beginning of the episode, listen to everything, stop when you get to the part when you need maybe more explanation or something that's new. If you feel like you need help in explaining something, I'm sure Sam will respond if you message him on LinkedIn. If you do that, say that you're coming from the Funky Marketing Podcast. As I always say, let's see if that actually works sometimes. Or no, I'm also here if I can direct you and connect you with them. I recommend using Dealfront and Leadfeeder. Now is the helicopter going above us, which makes it even more interesting. But I hope you got a lot of value from this episode. I know I did. Sam, any final words?
I think you've said them all. As I say, I'm excited to be working with people, educating people. So yeah, definitely reach out to me. Let's share notes. I'm a pretty open book. Happy to help where possible. But yeah,
Yeah.
this was a really nice chat.
Maybe you can share with us where they can people find more information about you and the deal front.
Yeah, I mean, me is LinkedIn. It's actually the only social channel I use. It's shouldn't admit that as a marketer, but I've got off everything else. So yeah, look me up on LinkedIn. We'll share my link because there's a load of Sam O'Briens out there, so it's always hard. And then Dealfront, you've got dealfront.com. Go there and you can find your way to Leadfeeder from there.
Perfect, guys. I'm gonna add some links in the description, in the show notes. Thank you for being here, Sam. Thanks a lot for spending an hour with me talking about what you guys do and about the future of sales intelligence and also the presence. Guys, as I always say for the end, keep it funky and see you in the next episode. Cheers.